Hello and welcome to the Waffle Flower channel. It's Shannon here, and today I'm going to show you how to create a simple Christmas tree stencil that works really well with pattern stamps, background stamps, or even tiny stamps. Right now I'm just sketching out a rectangle that represents my card base, which is 5 by 7, and I'm kind of figuring out here the center, and I'm going to draw a vertical line right through the center of the card. This is just going to help me create my Christmas tree. And this is just going to be a very simple geometric Christmas tree. I'm just guesstimating how big, or the angle here, just eyeballing it. I'm not trying to do a specific angle, but I did sketch out my card size so I could see how big I really wanted my tree to be. And then I will draw a little trunk here. And if you want to cut out a step, you don't have to draw a trunk. You could just have this like triangular tree, and that would look really cute too, and it'll just save you one little step of little cutting. And once I get that all sketched, I'm going to cut it out with an X-Acto knife. I've got a handy little magnetic cutting board and ruler, and that just kind of holds everything in place, but you don't need that. You could just use a regular ruler. And this is copy paper, by the way. I sketched this all out on copy paper. You don't want to use cardstock for this. It's too thick. You won't get as much as the stamped image as you possibly can with the thickness of the cardstock. You need thin paper, and copy paper is just right. And I'm almost done here. Just have to cut out that trunk of the tree. And then I'm going to take, once I'm done with that, I'm going to take it over to my paper trimmer and trim down this copy paper to basically the size of my card base, which is 5 by 7 again. But I'm going to cut it a tiny bit smaller. You see me here real quick, put a little piece of tape there. That's just because I messed up a little bit when I cut it with the X-Acto knife. So I'm just kind of fixing my error. This is Pattern Play, that stamp set. That's what I'm going to use to make the tree. So I got my card base there and my stencil on top, and I'm sticking inside my MISTI here. And as I was saying before, this stencil is a little bit smaller than my card base. My card base is 5 by 7, but my stencil is probably 4 3/4 by 7, so it's a little bit smaller at width. And that's so when I tape it here, which you'll see me doing, I'm getting tape on the stencil and onto the card, so it's holding both of them down in place. And you don't have to tape it down. And if you had more magnets, I probably wouldn't have to, but I wouldn't cut it smaller because I'd want to make sure I covered the whole card front. But also cutting it smaller does help you line it up too, because you can kind of position it better. Okay, so I'm pulling off some of the stamps from the Pattern Play set and just positioning them on here. I'm just kind of guessing how much width to put them in between, like about an inch, some a little bit less, and I'll just end up filling in the gaps with the stamps later, so not just kind of eyeballing it, just guessing. I did, though, however, specifically put a more solid stamp, which is that polka dotted stamp that I put down first at the trunk, and I will eventually move that to the tip top of my tree too. I like those more solid stamps for areas that are have smaller detail, like the trunk or the tip of the tree. That just kind of helps define those. You'll see those areas better. An open pattern, like the more open polka dots, you might lose some of the details because it doesn't have as much ink to really kind of mark out the stencil, the lines of the stencil, edges of the stencil. So I've got Peace of Mind here, and I'm just stamping. You can see how hard I'm pressing just to make sure I get all that stamp all the way up to the edge of the stencil pressed down. So I have nice, clean, crisp, as clean as a crisp line as I can get. Okay, I'm cleaning it off here, and I'm going to do just like I said earlier. I'm going to pull off that more solid stamp and put it at the top of the tree, just so I get a very visible point at the top. This is especially important for the top of the tree. You might be able to get away with the open ones for the trunk, but definitely for the top you want to do a more solid stamp. There we go. And I'm just going to stamp it a couple times. I do this like every time I stamp with all my inks, just so I have a nice, clean, crisp image. Which is like awesome that you can do that with the Misty. Okay, so now I'm all done with that piece of mine, so I am now getting everything lined up for my next color, which will be New Fish in Pond. And I'm just kind of trying to spread out the patterns here, and so it's like somewhat random. The only thing I'm being mindful of is the more solid stamps. I'm just trying to make sure I kind of have them dispersed all over the image so they're not all in one spot. I want to kind of spread them out. So this is New Fish in Pond. And I also, so today with this video, I'm only going to show colored inks, the card that I made with the colored inks. But I also made a card in the photos. You can see a red one where I did the stamping. My ink was embossing ink, and then I embossed it all in white embossing powder. So you can definitely use this for embossing. That would be really pretty. I really liked how that one turned out, but I thought this one was a little bit more complicated with the colored ink, so I thought I'd show this one. But if you do the embossing, I think it would be easier if you had an acrylic block that was big enough and mounted like all of these stamps all in like a tight row and then just stamped all the way up the tree. You would get a lot of cards done really fast that way, and then poured on the embossing powder. Using your Misty, you have to kind of like stamp a section and then pull it off, put on the embossing powder. It just takes more time. I just don't have an acrylic block that's big enough for that, so I couldn't do it. I had to use my Misty. Okay, so that's my Chirp Chirp. That's my final color, so I only used 3 colors for this card. And I'm, again, stamping it a couple times here so I have a nice, clean, crisp image. And another thing you could do with this stencil is you could do a background stamp. You could just stamp it down on there, or you could ink up your background stamp with a couple colors of ink so you have like an ombre look. That would be really pretty too. Or even just use your tiny stamps and stamp them down. Just do like a whole series of them, mount them on your acrylic, or mount them on the Misty, or your acrylic block would work fine too, and then stamp them down. And they'll help make the tree pop too. Like if you had a whole bunch of tiny little Christmas images, that would be really cute. Or even like a sentiment. A sentiment stamp could work really well too. So you could do a lot of fun things with this stencil. So I'm just filling in some of the gaps here, because I just eyeballed the spaces in between. You know, I just did like an inch, 3/4 of an inch. So some of them just need like a little, just filling in the gaps with some of the thinner ones. And I have one more space there, right there, that I'm gonna fill in. And then that will be my last one. And you can make stencils like this with your dies too. You don't have to do it by hand. But this one was, but if you do anything by hand, just a simple, especially anything that's nice straight lines, you can definitely do stencils images with nice straight lines. You can cut them out and draw them yourself. But dies are nice because they save some time. But this tree was really easy to make. Really, really easy. Okay, so pull off the stencil, and now I've got Peace on Earth stamp set, and I'm pulling off the Merry Christmas, the big Merry Christmas, and I'm just going to position it here, and I will stamp it in black. Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. There we go. I'm using my VersaFine Black Onyx ink here. And once I stamp that down, this card is done. I played around with doing it on colored paper too, and I really like how that one turned out. Same inks, just did it on the light green. Isn't that pretty? And that's it. So if you would like any more product info, please visit waffleflower.com and follow us on YouTube, Instagram, or Facebook for more creative ideas. Have a wonderful day.